Good afternoon. Welcome to another JPR Live session where we get to know artists we admire and hear intimate live performances from the JPR Steve Nelson Performance Studio. This JPR Live session is made possible with the support of Dos Mariposas Vineyards and Lavender. I'm Dave Jackson. Joining me in the studio today is Ian George. Ian is a veteran of Southern Oregon music and JPR Live Sessions. He's performed about a year ago as half of the folk duo Fellow Pynins, several years ago now as a member of Patchy Sanders. Today he's here as the namesake and frontman of a trio. Ian George is performing tonight at La Baguette Bakery and Cafe. Tickets are available via Eventbrite. Ian, welcome back to JPR. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Dave.
What's been going on for the last year?
The last year, God, I don't even know where I live anymore. The last year, have been doing a lot of touring. Fellow Pynins released our second album this last year. Recorded another album, which will come out this fall. Met these guys, met Jack at least. Started a little band. Been playing our first shows the last week together. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And you have another album out to do in the fall, you were saying. What's that one called? Do you have a name on it yet?
I do, yeah. It's called A Fair.
A fair, like county fair, but it could be perceived infinite amount of ways. I suppose it could, huh?
Yeah.
So you've collaborated in a lot of different ways, big ensembles, folk duos, now as a trio. What was the decision behind being a trio?
Yeah, I guess for me, was wanting to have a project that from the conception of the songs, I could kind of see ideas through to the end, where with bands, of course, from my experience, being in a band means making compromises and meeting in the middle occasionally. And yeah, sometimes in that compromising process, there is an artistic vision that can be watered down, I guess. But of course, being in a band comes with so many perks too. And it was just wanting a project that I could write a song and kind of like have an idea and see it through all the way, like arrange it as I heard it and be really hands-on. So
you get to be in charge when your name's on the trio then.
Yeah, calling a band name just your own name. It's just kind of claiming it, isn't it?
You have to step up at that point.
You do,
someone's got to run the ship, yeah. So you guys are in this trio. Who's rounding out your trio today?
We got Jack Radsliff on guitar, Ethan Boardman on drums. Yeah.
And how did you guys meet each other?
So Ethan and I, we went back. We worked on a farm years ago together. A mutual friend. Both of these guys live in Portland. Have been in Portland for a while. Jack and I met about a year ago at a jazz club in Portland called the 1905, which is one of my favorite spots to see live music. And a buddy of mine was visiting Portland. I was living up there for a little bit, and he's a bass player named Ted Olson, and he wanted to go on the jam session. I believe you, Jack, were facilitating that night. And I just got to observe Jack from like an audience perspective, and was like, not only does he have orange hair,
which fits,
but he's a pretty darn good player too, So I was like, he could be a great fit for this project. It's what is special about this trio is we have 66.66 repeating redheads.
Oh, that's right.
A majority, which is a first for me, I think, in my life, to be a majority as a redhead.
Yeah. Is it cause any strife having a non-redhead in the band?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Ethan, we all have a hard time with it a little bit, but we definitely are just coming to terms with embracing Ethan as being a blondie,
Being accepting.
I think that's really the times we're in. It's just accepting each other's differences more than ever.
Well, let's hear a song. What do you guys want to play first?
We're going to play The Indecisive Man.
Are you sure? I had to say that. I just couldn't help myself.
now I don't even know. Should we do it? Probably. All right.
I'll let you say
This is a new one we just wrote last week, so it's a last-minute guy added to the set.
Right. Ian George is my guest in a JPR Live session.
Spend my last year thinking on you. Gave a good thing away, but it's sometimes required to feel anew the half-hearted fool I've accused. Life up on the fence, too busy doing nothing for any excuse. Don't know what I want, so I take what I can't have. Said never the mothered lady, but every indecisive man. There's nothing that can't fit inside the palm of my hand. Since I can't decide on any, I take as many as I can. Sure, there've been constructs I have abused, but when the going was good, not one day I spent on love with you. Can't check out now, there's more to bruise. For to keep on defending mediocre illusions, that's what I do. I don't know what I want, so I'm gonna take what I can't have. Said never the mothered lady, but said every indecisive man. There's nothing that don't fit inside the palm of my hand. Says can't afford any, I take as many as I certainty up upon his stride. It'll only come from his only tide. I've been alive, but none of it graced upon knitted shed. Caught between the swimming float, since I can't choose, I'll just change my name instead. She knows what she wants, and she knows where to go. For those that cannot choose their life could never be their own. Now here's a bitter truth, if you don't have it, you might know. If the life that you are living ain't a yes, it's a no. If the life that you are living ain't a yes, it's a no. If the life that you are living
That is Ian George with The Indecisive Man. Ian is my guest today in a JPR Live session. The trio is performing in Ashland tonight at La Baguette Bakery and Cafe. And you can find all things Ian George at iangeorge.com. And we don't have any video going on, but we're going to be doing a little bit of technical work now with a guitar string that not sure what we're going to do with here. You're listening to the Rhythm and News Service of Jefferson Public Radio. Ian George is my guest in a JPR Live session today. And Ian George was here just about exactly 1 year ago as part of Fellow Pynins. He's in that with Danny O'Bear, and they play some really nice folk tunes, and you can check them out as well. Find all things again, Ian George at iangeorge.com, and you can find tickets to tonight's show at La Baguette Bakery and Cafe at Eventbrite. Ian, thanks for playing that song. That's The Indecisive Man, and that's going to be coming out on the album that's due out this fall. What was the name of that album again? Sorry.
A Fair.
A Fair. That's right. We talked about that earlier, and I got to yabbering and forgot what we were talking about earlier. Fun stuff. Live radio. And that's what you get here on Jefferson Public Radio.
Sure do.
We're fixing a guitar string, but
what a little moment, right?
Yeah.
My headphones fell off my face twice, and my guitar string broke. I haven't broke a guitar string in years, and they're brand new. You just never know
on live radio, because that's what happens. So that's just just the magic that can happen. Too bad we weren't on video. That might have been fun to see us helping you with your headphones and wondering what we're going to do about the guitar. So I was reading about you, and I wanted to talk about some stories I read and see how you might talk about them. Your first Ian George came out in 2019. It's called Kingdom of My Youth. And I was reading about the song The Wild and Untamed, and it appeared first on a Fellow Pynins album.
It did, yeah.
And there's an interesting story behind
there is,
that.
yes.
Do you want to share that story with us today?
Of course. This is a great moment for it. So actually, The Wild and the Untamed was a song that I wrote right at the end of the Patchy Sanders era. And we actually performed it like a couple times. And then when the band broke up, Danny and I continued on as a duo, and then we arranged that. That was one of the first songs we arranged as a duo. Okay. And now kind of, a few of the songs I've written over the years, I feel like we've always written for bands with drums and bass. And so this project kind of gives me, there's at times I've gone into the backlog and selected a few and dug them up. And this one being one of them. And so the story on this guy, God, this is, it's inspired by an interaction Danny and I had years ago. Jack, no way, very quick. Well done. Thank you. We're going to do without a D string. Okay.
But that's okay. Keep telling this story, though. I think this is a great story.
All right. So essentially, Danny comes home. Like our first child had just been weaned off the breast milk, and which, of course, happens to all of us at one point. And so there I was, full dadding it for the first time as Danny went out onto the town with the girls on a Friday night for the first time in 5 years, probably. And I was left just kid and I. First full night, fully dad vibes. And, it was really like a practice of diversion, I think, more than anything, to keep child from wanting breast, I think. And so essentially, like, time got away from me, and Danny walked to the front door after 1 a.m. And I don't know what she needed to be doing out in the town that late, but probably nothing good. So there I was. She walks to the front door, and she drops her bag, and she looks at me, and because I have nothing on but a hot pink tutu, and Vivaldi is blasting, which is what our daughter calls Cinderella music. And not only is daughter not slept yet, daughter's not fed dinner, and I was like mid-pirouette with nothing but that hot pink tutu, and I wouldn't go into that too deep. It's probably a bit disturbing. And yes, and so she looks at me and she goes, "Ian, WTF," and she didn't use the acronym, of course, and I was like frozen, and I looked at her and I say, "Oh." And I thought I had gotten in trouble with like the linear time predicament because it was so late. And she followed up her initial greeting with, "I thought you were supposed to be my burly man." And definitely, like, in retrospect, threw me through a bit of an existential crisis. And that night I laid in bed thinking about, what am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be a burly man? And I don't ever remember agreeing to that sort of thing. But yeah, so I had this idea to wake up before her the next day, which is in itself a big deal. And I put nothing on but the hot pink tutu at the crack of dawn, and I got a big piece of the hardest wood that I could find in the woodshed, because we lived in a cabin with exclusively wood heat, and the woodshed and the wood was quite readily available, and I got myself a piece of madrone that was green, unseasoned, and had to really want it, and I put it on the chopping block and just schnazzle blasted that thing. And the splinters ricocheted like off the window where she was sleeping, and she awoke to my fury, like, planned and witnessed me as like a bit of a demigod or something. And so I guess the thesis statement of this is like, look, I'm like a flamboyant pirouetting ballerina boy and like a demigod ravenous Viking dude all in the same bod. That's just my vibe, yeah.
Well, I guess, June is the non-binary month. That's a kind of a non-binary way of looking at things, isn't it? Yeah. Or maybe it's fully binary. I'm not sure, but it's both. And there's another story about getting tasered by the police in Eugene. What was going on there?
Yeah, so that's, that happened when I was 18. And I was like essentially doing a lot of activist work. And Yeah, I had, I mean, that's a massive story, but essentially I had started a grassroots activist group that was focusing on wild places in Oregon, specifically the WOPR, WOPR, which I believe stands for Western Oregon Plan Revisions. And it was like this thing that the Bush administration had released at the end of his second term as like a thank you to all of the major logging corporations, as like we're going to open up this last small percentage of old growth in Oregon for you to clear cut. And it was a big deal, and a lot of people weren't like speaking out about it in the government. And so we kind of took that approach of like, why aren't people standing up for especially like the more green oriented representatives and stuff. And it got really, a lot of people came out, and it turned into this huge deal. And I'm trying to keep this kind of short. And there was a lot of attention on our little grassroots activist project. And the next thing we worked on was like pesticides. They were spraying pesticides in the parks in Eugene. And we were like, that's not a good idea. There's kids. So that seemed like a really quite feasible thing we could tackle. And after we did the Western Oregon Plan Revision protest, and there happened to be a Homeland Security officer that was spying on the event and called in police to come in. And I had an interaction with this police officer, and he ended up not liking our conversation, and he punished me for it and drove away and snuck up behind me like 5 minutes later, 3 police officers, and tased me with while I was handcuffed. Okay. And it turned into this huge deal in Eugene that went on for, the trial, it went leading up to a 6-day trial. It was like a year and a half. Wow. I was so over it by the time it happened.
I imagine so. Well, you're with us now. You made it through. You are not serving time, so you survived all that. What would you like to play for us next? If you're just joining us, Ian George is my guest in a Jefferson Public Radio live session today.
Yeah, we're going to do Better with a Buddy without a D string.
Oh, yeah. Now, Ian has now changed to his 5-string guitar out of necessity today.
I keep candles and wine in the cellar neath my kitchen floor. And I have 12 croquet mallets, but only one of them is worn. And I would share it all with you, just to have a buddy. And to Spain, France, and Italy I did went alone. I crossed the shamrock ashore, and I sliced the last frontier in half. Left my Minnesotan town and headed for the west. Yet only once did I look back. And solitude is fine, as is a buddy. I have sung for the Queen the entirety of her court attended. And I played to a river of bodies, to the rushing of the people in the night. And I've trained 1,000 passerbys for a single buddy. Well, it seems as though the older we grow, we understand what we like and what we don't. And knowing that I'm young and I've many a day to come, still I'm happy to speak of my discoveries. That life is a more better with a buddy. That life is a more better with a buddy.
Ian George is my guest today in a JPR Live session from the Steve Nelson Performance Studio on the campus of Southern Oregon University. And they're playing tonight at La Baguette in Ashland. You can find tickets and information at Eventbrite as well as iangeorge.com. And performing tonight as the trio that you're hearing right now in our JPR Live session. Ian, you came from the Midwest. You do a whole lot of traveling. You live part of the time in the Green Springs here near Ashland. How does that influence, that song seemed to be about moving around and stuff like that. How does that influence your music?
Living in the Green Springs?
Well, just moving around, traveling.
Yeah.
Like you recorded in France. You've spent some time in Ireland studying music and meeting people and stuff.
It's a great question. I think I kind of look at the songs I write as like, I don't keep a journal. And I feel like the songs that I write are the journal entries for my life. And so I do a lot of writing while traveling and usually just inspired by like the landscapes and the towns I visit and the people that I have interactions with. So like that last one, for example, great example was written in the medieval walled city of Siena in Tuscany, Italy. And I was inspired by this moment that I had where I'd been traveling for a month in Italy, and I didn't really speak Italian, and they didn't really speak English a lot of the places I was. So it had proven to be quite a lonely few weeks, and I went to the store and I got myself a little Biologique bottle of wine. And I had this idea to bring this bottle to the wall and watch the sunset. And I decided that not only did this bottle of wine understand, but it spoke English. And I decided to make a friend in an inanimate object. And I wrote this song for the bottle of wine. And so who says you can't, find consolances in inanimate objects?
Right. And you recorded your the first Ian George album in France. Can you give us kind of the brief summary of that?
Yeah. So that was the same trip that I wrote the Better with a Buddy song on. And it was at the beginning of the trip before I went to Italy, and I'd flown out of Ashland and I'd flown into Paris, and a mutual friend said, you should meet this buddy of mine who lives in Paris, who's a great drummer. I think you two would get on well. And so I reached out to him right away, and we went to his friend's home recording studio, which happened to be in the 1600s mansion right at the edge of the Luxembourg Park, downtown Paris. And he was like unlocking the door. I remember it. I was like looking up, and I'm like, where are we? And he's like, oh yeah, this is this French musician named Matthew Shadid's personal studio. And like, he's this guy and blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool. Yeah. I never heard of him. And, that night we ended up spending hours there until sunrise, and Matthew Shadid came back and we jammed, the three of us, for like hours, and really just playing each other's new songs that we had been writing at the time. And Matthew was really supportive of the songs that I was writing at that time, and he was like, you should record these. And I was like, that's when Patchy Sanders just ended, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe I wasn't thinking about that anytime soon, but I ended up circling back around like a month later, and when we had another night until sunrise playing each other's songs I had been writing in that month, and he was like, no, you really should, and you should do it this August, and you can use my studio for free for 4 weeks, and you can stay above. And that drummer decided to help produce it, and so like 7 months later, I went back to Paris to record it, and I almost like convinced myself not to do it so many times. I was so nervous, and I was like, these songs, I'm not even ready. They're not finished. And it was funny because we were staying there, and it was like this artist collective. There were 6 flats, and Natalie Portman was living in one of them. Wow. It was just like global people like that. It was just like entering a totally different world. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, what do you want to wrap up with today?
We're going to do a song called Post Corona, which is a song that I wrote kind of in May 2020. And it's about a couple, and the woman gets this opportunity to work on an organic farm in Oregon. Right before the pandemic hit, she flies out there, and her boyfriend, who works this techie job in New York, is stuck in his flat for like a year plus, and she's just posting about her best life that she's living in her tiny house, harvesting kale outside her front. And he's just seeing all this, and she's like, honey, I'm not going to come back. This is so good. And he essentially, all the verses take place from the dude's perspective, and I envision it in the bathtub. So a really pruned guy by the end of the ballad.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Ian George is my guest in a JPR Live session today. This is a tune called Post Corona.
1, 2, 3. Warning signs, isolation, freak out. But for you, a holiday. You never really vibed with the caffeinated pace of it all anyway. I never wear sweatpants again post-corona. No, I'd never stay more than one foot away post-corona. Not much has changed in the woods of remote Oregon. Outside of the tiny house you have built grows a kale garden. What sort of novel concepts have you considered with your time? Or do you spend your quiet moments pining for your one true love like I spend mine? I never live in one of these cities again post-corona. Yeah, if you'd have me, I'd work your garden for free post-corona. Will
That's Ian George with Post Corona, a tune that's coming. It's going to be on the new album, Affair.
That was released, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something.
So that was a single that came out in 2021-ish or so. That was Post Corona. The new album, Affair, is due out in the fall. Is that correct?
That's correct, man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Ian George and the band. Introduce yourselves.
Jack Radsliff on electric guitar, Ethan Boardman on drums.
They're performing tonight at La Baguette in Ashland. You can find information at the La Baguette website. You can find it at iangeorge.com and through Eventbrite if you'd like to attend that show. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us today in a JPR Live session, guys. And you're headed to California next, is that right?
Yeah, tomorrow we go to Healdsburg for one night there and then 5 nights in California.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, good luck on the rest of your tour. And thanks again for dropping by. This is either your third or fourth time in a JPR
I think
Live
it's,
session.
3 or 4, yeah.
That puts you in almost the Golden Circle area up there. And JPR Live Sessions are engineered by John Griffin, and this JPR Live session was made possible with support from Dos Mariposas Vineyards and Lavender between Medford and Jacksonville. Their grounds and tasting room are family and pet friendly, and they offer several local wines, Mexican beer, homemade tamales, and host art events, dance lessons, and live music. You can get more information at dosmariposas.com. This and our past JPR Live sessions are archived at ijpr.org and available as podcasts on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. Stick around for more open air just ahead.